Feruza Amanova, the day I met him. The day I met him, Feruza Amanova.
Standing on the edge of the hill, I looked down on the road surrounded by the forest canopy and got my first glimpse of freedom. Freedom from parents, freedom from teachers, freedom from chaperones and all responsible adults. No one was looking. My best friend Anula had dragged the sleds all the way from the hotel lobby and suggested that we sled down the road leading up to the hotel instead of the designated hill in the back, the bunny hill they called it. Anula convinced me that the bunny hill was too meager for children who took cross-country skiing every winter for PE. Although, looking back at it, all we did was walk around the circles around the football field. But as far as we were concerned, we were forged out of Soviet steel, ready to take on the challenges of the world. Never mind that we've never been on a mountain before. What could go wrong? It was our first international school trip. We traveled via train and bus all the way from Moscow to the ski resorts of the Czech Republic for what felt like days. There were no hotels, no bathrooms, and barely any breaks until we reached our destination. I tell ya, you haven't lived until you popped a squat down the road next to your English teacher and yellowed the snow. But we would occasionally stop and get food. I may have been only 8 years old, but I was proud to make my own order using the little English that I had learned so far. It wasn't often that I got to eat out at a restaurant, let alone in a luxurious Western restaurant. I want potato, please, I said in my broken English, mesmerized by the golden arches. McDonald's had been open in Russia for only a few years, and we've gone there for special occasions, so it was quite an exciting treat to be eating there on our trip abroad. But what does that have to do with a couple of kids sledding? And how did we end up on top of a mountain unsupervised, you may ask? Simple. We were in a beautiful country, and the adults went out on an excursion into town and left the older kids to watch us. And they didn't want to watch us. And we were ready for an adventure. The winter sun shone brightly above us, but I shivered in my coat as I sat down on the sleds, mentally preparing myself for the ride down the hill. It looked steeper and farther than any of the hills we usually rode on back home. And the dark, menacing forest that the road was leading into did not help my fear and concern that maybe we shouldn't be doing this. But we did it, and it was worth it. We sped down that hill with the wind stinging at our cheeks and our innocent giggles filling the air. I held on to Anula tightly as we started picking up speed. It occurred to me we didn't know how to brake. The sleds usually just stop when we rode them back home. But Anula was confident and she was fearless, and she was the captain of our ship, leading us deep into the forest. In the shade of the trees, I imagined little red dots everywhere around us, watching us. Eyes, I wondered, could there be wolves? There could. It was possible because we saw one leading up to the hotel when we drove up there. But I quickly let go of that thought when we saw the clearing of the edge of the forest, and the day shone brightly again, and we started slowing down. Unfortunately, the road was leading to a bridge. The bridge over a frozen river. The bridge that was slightly to the left of our trajectory. When we finally stopped, we were about 10 feet from the shore on the frozen ice. We carefully stood up, hoping the ice won't start cracking beneath us. I was only paying attention to my feet as I walked slowly to shore, and while I was looking down, a heavy shoulder slammed into me. Or maybe I slammed into it. Details As I looked up, I saw a man in sandals, a long robe, long hair, and a beard. Jesus, Anulia and I said to ourselves as we screamed and started running up the hill. I don't know why we screamed and I don't know why we ran, but we were up that hill in minutes, running up to everyone we knew, telling them that we met Jesus. Now, it could be because we were young and excited, or perhaps because we didn't know much about Christianity, but we were convinced that Jesus was alive and well at the bottom of the river, just blatantly running into children. Eventually, the adults came back, but the older kids didn't dare tell them that they lost track of us, or that we slipped away from them and ended up on top of a frozen river hanging out with Jesus or a statue of one. Anyway, that is the story of the time that I met him.